Chapter 1, She truly has died. The cold wind was biting, and heavy snow fell throughout the night, covering the entire snow mountain. Blood stained the white snow by the cliff. Claire Crawford glared at her fiancé, Lance Stewart, who was renowned alongside her, as he took a fatal bullet meant for her. The one who wanted to kill her was the man she deeply loved, Theodore Seymour, along with her best friend, Tiffany Seymour. Behind them was a crowd of people dressed in black. Both Lance Stewart and she were the top war gods of Huaxia, the pride of Huaxia. Under Lance Stewart's command were 100,000 elite assassins, on par with the 9,000 Azura soldiers under her command. Subsequently, the Crawfords declined, and her parents were tragically killed, which Claire Crawford always suspected was caused by the Stewart family. When the Crawfords were oppressed by the Stewart family, Lance Stewart used their engagement as an excuse to keep her. Although they were engaged in name, Claire Crawford hated the Stewart family, including Lance Stewart. The one she always loved was her childhood friend, Theodore Seymour, who had saved her at Golden Mountain. For Theodore Seymour, Claire Crawford had attacked Lance Stewart countless times. But now, the one who betrayed her was Theodore Seymour, whom she had loved for 8 years. On the other hand, Lance Stewart, a godlike man, died saving her from these two traitors. On the edge of Snow Mountain, with the bone-chilling cold, Claire Crawford held Lance Stewart, her eyes cold and vicious as she looked at the two who betrayed her, her heart full of hatred. Why did you betray me? If they hadn't sold her out during this mission, her fiancé wouldn't have died tragically saving her. Of course, it's to kill you, so Theodore Seymour can take your place as war god, and he can marry me. Although I bear the surname Seymour, I'm not his sister. Tiffany Seymour laughed as she looked at Claire Crawford, not yet satisfied, and continued, Forgot to tell you, the one who saved you at Golden Mountain was Lance Stewart, who died for you, not our Theodore Seymour. The one who killed your parents wasn't the Stewart family, it was me who poisoned their food. How could you have been so naive all these years? At this moment, Claire Crawford realized how wrong she had been. For years, she had misunderstood Lance Stewart, always wanting revenge, using marriage as an excuse to eliminate the Stewart bloodline, to eliminate Lance Stewart. When Lance Stewart shielded her with his body, when he died for her, falling into her arms, countless memories of the past flooded Claire Crawford's mind. His deep, steadfast gaze, his gentle words of advice from the past, how he protected her against the Stewart family's difficulties, and defended her in front of everyone. But now, in this world, there was no more Lance Stewart, no one to treat her so well again. Claire Crawford, Stewart and Crawford families ruined my Seymour family, the Crawfords have been swallowed by my Seymour family, and we have infiltrated the Stewart family as well. Tomorrow, the Stewart family will collapse. Don't blame me, blame your surname Crawford. Theodore Seymour finished speaking, and Claire Crawford laughed. Her body full of wounds, she looked at these shameless people, and her only regret was not being able to apologize to Lance Stewart while he was alive. Lance Stewart, in this life, I have wronged you. I have never done anything for you, the only thing I can do for you is to avenge you. Claire Crawford laid Lance Stewart's body down, stood up, and looked at the despicable couple. At that moment, Claire Crawford was determined to die. Do you think the title of the first female war god of Huaxia is just an empty name? Ha, Claire Crawford, born noble, even in death, you all shall be buried with me. With those words, Claire Crawford pressed a button, detonating the bomb hidden within her. A massive explosion ensued, engulfing everything around. The snow mountain collapsed, trapping everyone beneath its weight, leaving no escape. Pain, her entire body ached, cold seeping into her bones. Claire Crawford hazily opened her eyes, having just been pulled from a lotus pond, her body shivering. She seemed to see someone before her, the person who saved her from the water. She reached out to grasp their hand but instead clutched a cold jade pendant, then lost consciousness again. Time passed, and when Claire Crawford awoke, she smelled medicine. In front of her was a green silk curtain, a small, ancient room filled with incense smoke. A young girl, around 16 or 17, approached with medicine. Seeing Claire awake, she was overjoyed. Miss, you're awake. You scared Willow Green to death. The young maid, Willow Green, cried tears of relief. Claire Crawford was confused. Hadn't she died? Didn't she detonate the bomb, killing herself along with those despicable people on Snow Mountain? What was happening? Why was she still alive? Where was she? Could it be she had traveled through time? Willow Green helped Claire sit up, despite a severe headache. Her mind raced with images like a fast-forwarded film. She had indeed died but had transmigrated into the body of the third daughter of the Crawfords, in the Marquis of Eternal Wing's residence. This third daughter was also named Claire Crawford, but unlike her, the original owner was timid, having lost her mother early and being bullied at home. The Marquis had 3 daughters, the eldest, Emily Crawford, the legitimate daughter, Vincent Crawford, and the original owner, the youngest. The relationships among the sisters were strained. Now, all 3 were of marriageable age, and the Marquis wanted one to marry Prince Lance, who held supreme power, for future protection. Prince Lance, being the son of the most favored royal consort Florence, had the highest chance of becoming crown prince. The original Claire had been resented because both she and Emily Crawford wanted to marry Prince Lance. Meanwhile, Vincent Crawford had no desire to marry him, as she was devoted to Jade Stone, the Marquis' adopted son. Due to past animosity between the original Claire's mother and the main wife, Eleanor Crawford, and Vincent's jealousy of Claire's beauty, Emily had Margaret Seymour as her backing, leaving Claire as the target of their frustrations. Claire had been pushed into the lotus pond by Vincent Crawford after being praised by the Marquis at a family banquet, causing Vincent's jealousy to flare. Vincent's mother, Eleanor, suppressed the incident. Claire often suffered at Vincent's hands, with only her loyal maids, Willow Green and Snowfrost, to care for her. Since fate had allowed her to be reborn into the third daughter of the Marquis of Eternal Wings, Claire decided to live well. Beside her bed lay a jade pendant, which she picked up. Willow Green quickly explained, "Miss, we found this jade pendant in your hand when we rescued you from the pond." Tears welled in Claire's eyes. She recognized the pendant, similar to the engagement token Lance Stewart had given her, claiming it was an heirloom to be passed down to their descendants. "Miss, why are you crying?" Willow Green worriedly wiped Claire's tears away. Claire carefully stored the pendant, recalling that someone had saved her from the pond. In her days, she had grasped this jade pendant, believing it belonged to her rescuer. Despite continuously taking medicine, Claire's health showed no improvement. Madame Eleanor Crawford, in an effort to cover up Vincent Crawford's act of pushing Claire Crawford into the lotus pond, specifically sent someone to deliver a tonic. "Miss, the royal physician mentioned that your body is too weak and needs nourishment," said Willow Green, bringing the bird's nest soup sent by Madame Crawford. However, Claire Crawford had a vague sense that something was amiss. This feeling persisted until Margaret Seymour sent someone with the 100-flower fragrance. Margaret Seymour was no ordinary person. She was the concubine of the eldest daughter, Emily Crawford. Rising above many other concubines, she managed to gain half the household management rights, thanks to her beauty and exceptional skills. Not only could she charm the Marquis of Yangi into obedience, but she also firmly established her position within the Crawfords. Claire Crawford then recalled that Margaret Seymour's maternal family, the Margarets, had been involved in medicine for generations. Her initial entry into the Marquis of Yangi's residence was due to her medical expertise, which helped manage the Marquis's chronic headaches. The tonic sent by Madame Crawford was harmless, so why was her health still not improving? The 100-flower fragrance was known to be incredibly valuable, so why would Margaret Seymour specifically send such precious incense to a mere maid like her? The person delivering the incense was Spring Hope, a servant of Margaret Seymour, who courteously informed Claire Crawford, "Third Miss, our mistress said that this 100-flower fragrance will not interfere with the medicine you are taking and has a calming effect." This statement seemed somewhat suspicious. Chapter 2, A face as lovely as a flower. Claire Crawford looked at the fragrant bouquet Spring Hope brought and smiled, saying, "Thank you, Margaret Seymour, for your concern. Snowfrost, please see Miss Spring Hope out." After Spring Hope left, Willow Green put away the bouquet and said, "Miss, although the matron is not kind to you, Margaret Seymour truly cares for you." Claire Crawford gave a faint smile and said, "Willow Green, just store the bouquet away. The royal physician advised me not to use it carelessly in my current condition. Margaret Seymour means well, but let's wait until I'm healthier to use it. We should handle this discreetly to avoid misunderstandings." Willow Green was momentarily taken aback, then understood and replied, "You're right, Mississippi. I will store it carefully." The bouquet was quietly put away, and apart from Willow Green and Snowfrost, who closely attended to Claire Crawford. The other servants were unaware of its significance. A few days later, Claire Crawford was well enough to go for walks and her spirits had improved significantly. Having just taken her medicine one day and planning to enjoy the sun in the courtyard, she suddenly heard footsteps approaching, sounding like several people. "Oh my, dear sister, how frail you are. Just fell into the lotus pond and heard you were bedridden for days. I almost thought you wouldn't make it. With your half-alive state, I'm afraid Prince Lance will like you even less." The visitor was a young woman about Claire Crawford's age, with her hair styled in a moonrise bun, adorned with a long phoenix hairpin. She held a chrysanthemum fan, wore a dark blue dress embroidered with butterflies, and had milk smoke-colored embroidered shoes, a true beauty. Following her were two maids, each as arrogant as their mistress. The visitor was Emily Crawford, the eldest daughter of the Crawfords, favored by Margaret Seymour, and arrogant within the Crawfords' household. Claire Crawford frowned, trying to recall Emily Crawford, who was indeed Margaret Seymour's daughter, aiming high. Now that the eternal Wing Marquis household was connected with Prince Lance, Emily Crawford naturally wouldn't miss this opportunity. Emily Crawford was determined to marry Prince Lance, and Claire Crawford was her biggest obstacle, a stone she had to remove from her path. Before Claire Crawford could say anything, Willow Green spoke up. "Eldest miss, you shouldn't say that. My lady is just a little weak but is now healthy." Smack! Emily Crawford raised her hand and slapped Willow Green, who immediately knelt on the ground. "What right does a lowly servant like you have to speak to me?" Emily Crawford behaved as if she owned the room, striking without hesitation. "In this courtyard, none of you are worth anything. Do you think Prince Lance would prefer you? If Prince Lance doesn't prefer me, would he prefer you, the eldest daughter? Don't forget, the Crawfords still have the legitimate daughter, and the second sister is still here." Claire Crawford helped Willow Green up, deliberately striking a nerve with Emily Crawford. At this moment, Emily's face was unsightly, infuriated by the mention of the eldest daughter. For years, she had always been overshadowed by Vincent Crawford, the legitimate daughter. Even if Prince Lance intended to ally with the young Marquis household, Vincent Crawford would still be above her. Emily was already seething with anger, and Claire's words only added fuel to the fire, making her beautiful face appear somewhat fierce. "You, how dare you speak to me like that?" Emily shouted, lunging towards Claire. However, Claire calculated the distance and gracefully sidestepped, causing Emily to fall flat on her face. As Emily let out a pained cry, her two maids rushed forward to help her up. "Miss, are you all right?" they asked in fear, surprised by Emily's sudden fall. "What are you standing there for?" "Restrain this wench for me," Emily ordered, now furious and unstoppable in her pursuit of Claire. The two maids complied and moved to seize Claire. Willow Green hurried to assist, but everyone underestimated Claire's prowess. Known as the top warrior of JoJo, Claire easily overpowered the maids, who were no match for her. But these maids were merely a distraction. Emily was Claire's real target. As the maids attempted to restrain Claire, she effortlessly kicked them aside, shattering a nearby vase. Emily's chief maid then tried to grab Claire but was slapped to the ground. In a panic, the maid grabbed a shard of the broken vase and charged at Claire. Quick on her feet, Claire pulled Emily aside, pushing her towards the chief maid. Calculating the distance, Claire kicked the maid's leg, resulting in a sickening crack as she collapsed. The worst part wasn't the maid's broken leg, but Emily's face being cut by the shard, leaving her bloodied and terrifying. "Someone, seize this audacious wench. She dared to injure the eldest daughter. Take her to Margaret Seymour's clinic immediately to see the extent of the damage to the lady's once beautiful face," Claire commanded coldly, feigning anger yet smiling slightly, exuding an untouchable authority. Everyone present had witnessed Claire's skills. Emily, who often bullied the original Claire, was now frightened by her sudden transformation. Previously timid and fearful, Claire never dared to retaliate, even if Emily hit her. But now, not only did she fight back, she issued commands. "Eldest sister, shouldn't you hurry? If your face, injured by a servant, isn't treated quickly, it might be ruined," Claire taunted. Terrified by Claire's fierce gaze and genuinely worried about her face, Emily quickly left Claire's courtyard. Maple Woods. Court descended into chaos. Emily's facial injury was a serious matter, and even the imperial physician was summoned. The commotion lasted until midnight before calm was restored. Ultimately, since Emily initiated the trouble, Margaret Seymour, being wise, knew they had to swallow their anger. "Mother, my face is all because of that vile woman Claire Crawford. If it weren't for her, my face wouldn't be injured like this. We absolutely cannot let her get away with this," Emily Crawford cried pitifully in front of Margaret Seymour. Seeing Emily Crawford's face injured in such a way, Margaret Seymour naturally couldn't let it go. While comforting Emily Crawford, Margaret Seymour said, "Don't worry, Mother will help you get revenge. It seems we need to speed up the plan. I will find a way to drive her mad, ensuring she won't stand in your way." However, Claire Crawford, who was once so timid and fearful, dared to harm her precious daughter today. Something felt off to Margaret Seymour. Could it be that this girl has discovered something? Years ago, she had used some tricks to get rid of Claire Crawford's mother, Beatrice Stewart, the beloved of the Lord. Over the years, as long as Claire Crawford remained, she always felt it was a hidden threat. Chapter 3, Why is he her fiancé? The next day, Prince Lance came to the Earl's residence, clearly for the purpose of marriage alliance. Lady Eleanor Crawford served him humbly, afraid of angering him. Speaking of Prince Lance, he was cunning and unpredictable, often engaging in unscrupulous acts. However, with royal consort Florence backing him and many allies at court, others dared not oppose him. "Miss, I heard that Prince Lance has arrived and is having tea in the front hall," Willow Green informed Claire Crawford, knowing her thoughts well. She had inquired about these matters and quickly reported to Claire upon learning of Prince Lance's visit. Unfortunately, Claire Crawford had no interest in Prince Lance. The reason he could propose a marriage alliance was because the Earl of Eternal Wings held significant military power and was favored by the Emperor. To secure the throne, Prince Lance needed the Earl's support, hence their mutual relationship. However, from what Claire Crawford knew, Prince Lance was nothing good, oppressing the people and solely focused on manipulating court politics. She couldn't understand why the original Claire valued him. Claire nodded without any reaction. As she and her servant conversed, Snowfrost entered the room. "Miss, the second Miss and February Moon," Snowfrost announced. February Moon politely entered, greeted Claire, and said, "Greetings, 3rd Mississippi. My lady said Prince Lance has arrived and wishes you to come to the front hall. She specifically sent me to bring clothes and jewelry so you won't embarrass the Earl's residence." Claire glanced at the clothes and jewelry, nodded, and said, "Thank my second sister for me. When will she come to the front hall?" February Moon paused, then quickly replied, "The second Miss is unwell today. 3rd Miss should quickly prepare and head to the front hall." Claire nodded, and after February Moon delivered the items, she hurriedly left. Claire looked at the clothes and jewelry, lost in thought. The front hall was for receiving guests. How could someone from the inner chambers go there? When had Vincent Crawford become so considerate? If she dressed up and went to the front hall to meet Prince Lance, rumors would spread that she shamelessly tried to seduce him. It was all a scheme. Vincent Crawford chose her because Emily Crawford's face was scarred, and she didn't want to marry Prince Lance. Claire was merely a scapegoat. In Claire's view, if someone truly wanted to leave, even a scarred face wouldn't stop them. "Snowfrost, go and inform Prince Lance in the main hall at Maple Woods Court that I wish to dress splendidly to meet him." Claire Crawford didn't want to go, but with Vincent Crawford watching her intently, someone had to meet Prince Lance to satisfy the others. Someone was eager to marry Prince Lance and couldn't just sit idly by. Sure enough, not long after, it was said that Maple Woods Court sent over exquisite pastries for her to enjoy. Claire Crawford looked at the plate of pastries with a cold smile. As the top war god of the 9 provinces, skilled in both literature and martial arts, and an expert in medicine and poison, she immediately noticed the addition of red wallflowers in the pastries. She had used red wallflowers to torment Lance Stewart many times before, and no one understood their effects better than him. If consumed, they would certainly cause dizziness and blurred vision for several days. Claire Crawford smirked at the pastries, knowing that since they had made the first move, she wouldn't hold back either. For Maple Woods Court to act so swiftly and skillfully, it could only be Margaret's doing. If Claire Crawford remembered correctly, the original owners. mother had also died of illness. A cold that couldn't be overcome. Thinking back now, along with the 100-flower fragrance Margaret brought, it all seemed rather strange. Let's go to the back of the rockery. Claire Crawford had carefully examined the terrain of Crawford Estate in recent days. Emily Crawford, a noble lady, could only meet Prince Lance discreetly behind the rockery on his path. But even with her face ruined, Emily Crawford was determined to find a way to meet him. Sure enough, Emily Crawford, wearing a pitiful veil, waited for Prince Lance behind the rockery. When Prince Lance passed by alone, she hurriedly approached. Eldest daughter of the Duke of Yongi, Emily Crawford, greets Prince Lance. May Prince Lance be blessed with good fortune. I didn't know Prince Lance would pass by here, and I beg for his forgiveness. Emily Crawford pretended to be demure and polite, while Prince Lance was used to such pretenses. His residence was full of concubines, and he understood Emily Crawford's intentions. It's fine, you may rise. Prince Lance glanced at Emily Crawford, her veiled face obscuring her features, but the mysterious allure intrigued him, sparking a slight affection. Unfortunately, before this affection could last, Claire Crawford, hiding behind the rockery, seized the moment and struck Emily Crawford's leg with a small stone. Emily Crawford's knee buckled, causing her veil to fall, revealing her bloodied face. Prince Lance was so shocked that his pupils dilated. He quickly turned and left, leaving Emily Crawford unable to explain, stomping her foot in anger. Claire Crawford whistled, feeling pleased with herself. Unbeknownst to her, a man in purple had witnessed the entire scene. The man wore a long purple robe, with a golden belt embroidered with a dark blue dragon. His long hair flowed like water, and his deep, inscrutable eyes complemented his tall, straight figure. He hid behind the rockery in a secret spot. Seeing Claire Crawford approaching, the man smiled mischievously at her before disappearing over the wall. Claire Crawford, preparing to return to Peach Blossom Pavilion, saw only a fleeting silhouette, but it seemed familiar. By the time she regained her senses, the figure had vanished. She even thought she might have been seeing things. This was the Duke of Yongi's residence, the Crawford family home. How could it be her fiancé? She must have been overthinking. Back at Peach Blossom Pavilion, Claire Crawford's mind was filled with the image of the man in purple. Willow Green, do you think there could be two identical leaves in the world? Claire Crawford had only seen the silhouette, yet it felt so familiar, leaving her mind in a tangle. Willow Green naturally didn't understand what Claire Crawford meant and replied, "Miss, aren't all leaves the same?" Claire Crawford shook her head, and then Snowfrost entered. "Miss, you previously asked me to investigate the origins of this jade pendant. I found out that it belongs to the royal family." "Miss, you can't keep something from the royal family." It was known that royal items were meticulously recorded, each with a traceable origin. If discovered possessing royal property, one would be punished. The royal family? Claire Crawford was taken aback. Could this jade pendant be linked to the royal family? Who was the person who saved her? In the following days, Claire Crawford frequently visited to care for Vincent. Previously, it was always Vincent Crawford and Emily Crawford attending to him, but now Vincent directly called for Claire Crawford, preventing the other two from approaching. Claire was very considerate and attentive in her care. Rarely had Vincent looked at Claire properly, and now he thought to himself that Claire was truly not bad. Why hadn't he noticed before that he had such an obedient and understanding daughter? Claire Crawford had no backing, unlike Vincent Crawford, who had the First Lady Eleanor Crawford, or Emily Crawford, who had Margaret. Now, Vincent had other plans for Claire. "Claire, I've wronged you over the years. In the future, if you need anything, just tell me." Vincent held Claire's hand, and from his gaze, Claire only saw greed and calculation. Claire understood clearly that the old man was hiding something sinister, but she couldn't confront him directly. "Father, Claire isn't feeling wronged, just hoping you recover soon." After Claire Crawford spoke, Vincent nodded. Claire Crawford was obedient and easy to control, so Vincent said, "Tomorrow, Prince Lance will visit me. I'll have a new outfit made for you overnight, so you must look radiant when meeting Prince Lance." "Prince Lance?" Claire Crawford was startled inside. It turned out he wanted to marry her off to Prince Lance. However, she remained silent, pretending to be shy, and said, "Father, with Prince Lance's status, I'm not worthy. The First Lady and Margaret Seymour have said before that my status isn't fitting for the main hall." Vincent frowned, showing displeasure. Although Prince Lance wanted to choose a consort from among his 3 daughters, Vincent hadn't decided yet. So, the fact that the First Lady and Margaret Seymour had their own ideas before he made a decision made Vincent very unhappy. "You don't need to worry about them, what do women know? In this marquisate, what I say goes. Go rest now." After Vincent spoke, Claire Crawford nodded and retreated. The old man thought she was easy to bully because she was obedient. Claire Crawford was using Vincent to secure her position in the marquisate, and as for Prince Lance, if he wanted to marry her, he needed to have the capability. Chapter 6, The Beauty Amidst Ghosts. The following afternoon, when Prince Lance visited Vincent's residence, someone from Vincent's side invited Claire Crawford to the main hall. In the Peach Blossom Pavilion, while Willow Green was combing Claire Crawford's hair, she said, "Miss, since when did the Marquis care for you like this? Is it because he was moved by you testing the poison for him?" Claire Crawford absent-mindedly replied, "Of course, it's because I'm easy to manipulate." Willow Green added, "Miss, you shouldn't speak carelessly like that. Perhaps the Marquis wants to find you a good match because he knows you're filial." "A good match?" Claire Crawford let out a cold laugh, then headed to the main hall with Willow Green. That day, Prince Lance was drinking tea with Vincent in the main hall. When Claire Crawford appeared, Prince Lance was nearly stunned. She had her hair styled in a high bun, adorned with a glass fan-shaped hairpin. She held an ivory fan carved with a beauty, wore a light blue silk dress embroidered with auspicious clouds, and red embroidered shoes with phoenix designs. Previously, Prince Lance had only found Emily Crawford captivating, more so than Vincent Crawford's legitimate daughter. But after being frightened by Emily Crawford's ruined face, Prince Lance shifted his attention to Vincent Crawford. Rumor had it that the third daughter of the marquisate was always disheveled and half-crazy, yet here she was, breathtakingly beautiful. Compared to her, all other flowers seemed dull. "Prince Lance, this is my third daughter, Claire, here to greet you." After Vincent spoke, Claire Crawford followed his intention and bowed to Prince Lance. Claire Crawford had seen Prince Lance before but never this close. Now, upon meeting him again, she felt even more repulsed. Despite his jade-like face, Prince Lance's eyes always carried a lewdness. This Prince Lance was a notorious scoundrel, known for having numerous concubines, seizing land from the people, amassing wealth, backed by royal consort Florence, and favored by the emperor, truly committing all sorts of evils. Claire Crawford greeted Prince Lance with a hint of disdain in her eyes, though she couldn't show it in front of Vincent. Prince Lance, however, made no attempt to hide his gaze, staring directly at Claire. "Your Highness, Prince Lance, I've heard your garden is famous far and wide, and it's in full bloom now. My daughter loves flowers and has always wanted to see your garden. If you're free today, could you please take her to enjoy the flowers?" Vincent's intentions were clear to Prince Lance, who was quite pleased. Vincent had never personally introduced any young lady from his household before. It was usually the senior lady and Margaret Seymour who worked behind the scenes. Now, with Vincent introducing Claire Crawford, Prince Lance was delighted, his interest piqued, and he began to entertain other thoughts. "Rest assured, Vincent. The third Miss Crawford is so captivating that even the flowers in my garden might pale in comparison. I will take good care of her." With Prince Lance's assurance, Claire Crawford was effectively handed over to him by Vincent. Although Prince Lance hadn't done anything inappropriate, his gaze and demeanor were enough for Claire to understand that he was like a venomous snake, ready to strike. Despite knowing she was entering a lion's den, Claire had no choice but to go, pushed by her own father. How could a father be so heartless, watching his daughter fall into an abyss and still giving her a shove? Truly, he was nothing more than a scoundrel. In Prince Lance's residence, the flowers were indeed in full bloom. Neither Prince Lance nor Claire Crawford had any interest in the flowers. While observing her surroundings, Claire was unsure of Prince Lance's intentions for the day. She had to stay vigilant, as she couldn't predict when he might suddenly turn on her. "Third Miss Crawford, not only are the flowers beautiful here, but the food is also exceptional. Would you do me the honor of trying some?" After a brief exchange with his guards, Prince Lance invited her to eat. It wasn't mealtime yet, so why eat? Claire suspected something was amiss, but she didn't show it, smiling sweetly and saying, "Let's go." It's rare to have the chance to taste the food from Prince Lance's residence. Prince Lance led the way past a pavilion to a dining area by the lotus pond, where everything was lavishly set with silverware. However, after a few bites, Prince Lance began pouring wine with enthusiasm. "Come, third Miss Crawford. Previously, I was at fault, blind to your charms. I'll drink to that." He downed a glass and approached Claire with another. Claire, aware of his intentions, remained silent. Prince Lance continued, "Surely you understand your father's intentions. I've fallen for you at first sight. Let's drink to that." He returned to his seat, and Claire finally lifted her glass, watching as Prince Lance observed her drink it all. Then, Prince Lance smiled at the beauty before him, thinking it wouldn't be his style to just look and not indulge. "After all, we'll soon be family. Why don't you stay tonight?" Before he could finish, Prince Lance collapsed onto the table. Claire smiled coldly at him, unimpressed by his feeble attempt to outwit her. The servants in Prince Lance's residence were all sent away by him, leaving only the two of them at the waterside pavilion. "Prince Lance, oh Prince Lance, you underestimate me," Claire Crawford said, still not satisfied. She fiercely kicked the unconscious man. This lecherous fool wanted to take advantage of her? It was clear it wasn't his first time committing such vile acts. The wine cup mixed with aphrodisiac next to Claire Crawford had long been swapped by her while Prince Lance wasn't paying attention, adding a little extra spice for him. This time, Prince Lance wouldn't wake up for several hours. Fortunately, she had spent recent days at Peach Blossom Pavilion studying various potions, intricate concealed weapons, and so on, which she kept in her scented sachet, and now she had a chance to use them. Claire Crawford glanced around. This was Prince Lance's residence, and it wouldn't be wise to make a scene. After all, if things got out of hand, her unscrupulous father wouldn't help her. So, Claire Crawford quietly left, leaving the unconscious Prince Lance at the pavilion. Without his orders, and with the curtains fluttering, no one would dare to disturb them for a while. Unfortunately, unfamiliar with Prince Lance's residence, she could only fumble her way out, trying not to be noticed, but ended up wandering to the back mountain of the estate. She intended to quietly leave via the back mountain, but as soon as she entered, a sharp sword was pointed at her throat. Chapter 7, discussing cooperation. The sword was only 0.1 away from Claire Crawford, but she could still see the person holding it. A silver mask, especially those familiar black eyes. Wasn't it the masked man from that day? Even if he turned to ashes, she wouldn't forget him. So, this was Prince Qin? Ah, the mysterious Prince Qin. What are you doing? Although I haven't repaid you for saving my life last time, meeting like this is quite intense, Claire Crawford said, taking a few steps back, intending to escape from the rockery. But what happened? Not only was she blocked by Prince Qin, but she also had a sword pointed at her. Luckily, she had a good temperament and could still smile while speaking to him. Is that so? The third Miss Crawford has quite the reach, making me search for a while. Hand over the item, Prince Qin said coldly, his icy demeanor surpassing even the stifling summer heat. Claire Crawford remembered it was about the Prince Qin token. She had taken it back then to identify who he was and to protect herself, and now it was proving useful. So it's about that token. What do you think would happen if Prince Lance found out? Claire Crawford deliberately mentioned the token, prompting Prince Qin's sword to thrust mercilessly towards her. But Claire Crawford was no ordinary person. She had been caught off guard by Prince Qin hiding in the shadows earlier, but now she was prepared. How could she let herself be easily attacked? When Prince Qin's sword lunged, Claire Crawford swiftly dodged it. Prince Qin narrowed his eyes at Claire Crawford. Rumors had it that the third Miss Crawford was useless. He had met her once before, and it turned out those were just rumors. Today, in their exchange, she was far from being merely useless. Being able to dodge a sword strike from him was not something an ordinary person could do. The 36 sword techniques truly live up to their reputation. Why is that, Your Highness Prince Tan? Are you afraid that your assassination attempt on Prince Lance that day might be exposed? Or are you worried that my growing relationship with Prince Lance will lead me to tell my father about how you injured me? Every word Claire Crawford spoke pierced Prince Tan's heart, as he indeed harbored murderous intent towards her. The order from Prince Tan was in Claire Crawford's possession, serving as undeniable evidence. Thus, he contemplated silencing her for good. The Crawford family was not known for their kindness, and he had heard rumors about the two young ladies of the Crawfords, none of which were flattering. Now, he equated Claire Crawford with them. Currently, Claire Crawford's martial skills and intelligence were formidable, leaving Prince Tan unsure of how to proceed. Prince Tan, do you think with your martial arts skills, you can easily silence me? Instead, why don't you take me out of Prince Lance's residence, and we can sit down and talk things over? Claire Crawford's urgent priority was to leave Prince Lance's residence. Compared to the prince in front of her wielding a sword, she was more concerned about how to get out of there. Prince Tan also understood that if things got out of hand, he wouldn't be able to explain himself. His presence at Prince Lance's residence was inappropriate, and he couldn't justify why he was there. While Prince Tan was contemplating, Claire Crawford added, "Prince Tan, what if I scream now, claiming you disrespected me? What would Prince Lance think?" Prince Tan was infuriated by Claire Crawford's provocation. He hadn't even silenced her yet, and this girl was already threatening him. The key was that he couldn't help but comply with her demands, which was infuriating. Claire Crawford managed to follow Prince Tan from behind the rock garden and leave Prince Lance's residence. Observing how familiar he was with the path, it seemed he had sneaked into Prince Lance's residence quite a few times. "I must say, Prince Tan, you seem to care a lot about Prince Lance. You even know where to sneak in without being noticed. I've heard that when someone cares too much about another, there are only two possibilities." Claire Crawford paused halfway, keeping the rest to herself as she followed Prince Tan to a tea house, an ideal place for a conversation. "Go on," Prince Tan said with a displeased expression, waiting for Claire Crawford to continue. Unexpectedly, Claire Crawford unceremoniously ordered some premium snacks and tea, and after enjoying them, she continued, "The first possibility is that you love your half-brother." Claire Crawford spoke seriously, and Prince Tan listened intently. It felt like he had swallowed something disgusting, even the snacks on the table lost their appeal. Seeing Prince Tan's disgusted expression, Claire Crawford couldn't help but laugh. After satisfying her appetite, she continued, "It seems Prince Tan belongs to the second category." Claire Crawford spoke with interest, and Prince Tan was willing to listen to a few more words, raising his eyebrows meaningfully and taking a sip of tea. "Prince Lance has committed many wrongs, exploiting the people and relying on others backing to do evil deeds. What you think, Prince Tan, is exactly what I think." Claire Crawford believed her way of expressing herself was clear. As long as Prince Tan could understand the literal meaning of her words, he would realize she was showing goodwill towards him. "Miss Crawford, your words are indeed interesting. Is this your way of showing goodwill to me?" The Qin King was no fool. The Marquis of Crawford's intention was clear. He hoped Claire Crawford would marry Prince Lance and become his consort. Claire Crawford understood this, yet she spoke ill of Prince Lance in front of the Qin King, which was somewhat amusing. "No, Your Highness, you are mistaken. Haven't you heard? When a woman criticizes a man in front of another man, she is actually praising that man. I am saying that you, Your Highness, are a good person." "A good person?" This was the first time the Qin King had ever heard a woman call him that. Even though he wore a mask, Claire Crawford could see him smile. He seemed like an easy target to manipulate. "So, does the third Miss Crawford mean to say she has fallen in love with me at first sight and wishes to repay me with her affection?" The Qin King teased, half-jokingly, uncertain of Claire Crawford's intentions. Claire shook her head and replied, "Your Highness jests. Love at first sight is based on appearances, and I haven't even seen your face. How could I fall in love? What I want is for us to be of one mind." The Qin King didn't understand her meaning and set his teacup down, waiting for her to continue. "Your Highness wants to deal with Prince Lance, but doing so alone will be difficult. Currently, my father fully supports Prince Lance. If the Marquis House were to ally with Prince Lance, it would not be advantageous for you." Claire Crawford analyzed the situation clearly, seeing through the predicament. The Qin king was not favored by his father or mother, so if Prince Lance gained the marquis house as a supporter, it would be even harder for the Qin king to overthrow him. And so? The Qin king tilted his head, smiling wickedly at Claire Crawford, showing his appreciation. Therefore, I want to cooperate with you, Your Highness. You help me fend off Prince Lance, and I will provide you with the intelligence you seek. Once successful, I will willingly hand over what you desire. Chapter 8, The Emotionless Money Machine. The Qin king truly did not expect Claire Crawford to propose this idea. Cooperation. She wanted to cooperate with him. Late at night, Claire Crawford was indeed bold, daring to meet him alone at the tea house and suggest collaboration. It was known that Marquis Crawford was a man of his word, having decided that Claire would marry Prince Lance, yet this girl dared to defy his orders and secretly collaborate with the Qin king. Very well, since the third Miss Crawford has made the offer, such a clever beauty cannot be refused. Naturally, I will fulfill the lady's wish. Although the Qin king's words were somewhat insincere, he did agree. Claire Crawford knew he would agree, such a good opportunity, having someone as his eyes and ears beside Marquis Crawford, how could he refuse? Pouting, she said, "Oh, come on, are you really being chivalrous? You're just taking advantage and showing off. It's dark, and the third Miss Crawford is timid, she needs your highness to escort her back to Crawford Estate." Claire Crawford, satisfied in full, amused the Qin king greatly with her intriguing personality. Did she really need an escort? Someone who could match him in wits didn't refuse in the end. After escorting Claire Crawford back to the estate, the Qin king finally understood why she wanted him to accompany her. The pearl hairpins that young girls liked, she casually took, and he paid. The rare herbs that girls didn't like, she also casually took, and still, he paid. Claire Crawford placed the toys that men like into her bag, and he automatically paid for them. Even with the makeup that men don't like, she still put it in her bag. Finally, Prince Lance understood why Claire Crawford wanted him to accompany her. She wanted his money. Why not just say it directly? Is the third daughter of the Crawfords short on money? Claire Crawford returned to the manor, not through the main gate, but through a small side door leading to her peach blossom pavilion. However, the small door was locked, and she couldn't get in. "Prince Lance, you've escorted me here, you can leave now," Claire Crawford said, ready to part ways. She had acquired quite a few good items today and carried a small, bulging bag on her back, satisfied as she returned. Prince Lance found it amusing and asked, "How do you plan to get in? Do you need my help?" Claire Crawford stepped on a small tree nearby, effortlessly leaping onto the wall. She turned to Prince Lance and said, "Someone who can match Prince Lance in skill doesn't need your help. You can go now, I'm tired." Prince Lance felt she was ungrateful, using him and then dismissing him, but he shook his head and left. Claire Crawford, as if nothing happened, returned to her peach blossom pavilion and instructed Willow Green to take the good items she brought back to her room where she usually created new things. She also gave the makeup to Willow Green and Snowfrost to distribute among the others as a reward. "Miss, the eldest lady came by earlier, made a scene, and then left," Willow Green mentioned, clearly upset about Emily Crawford. Emily's face was almost healed, and it seemed she was starting trouble again. "Ignore her, let her be for a few days," Claire said. Now that she was set to be Prince Lance's future wife from the Vincent household, her father had sent many things to the Peach Blossom Pavilion, making it more luxurious. Claire wasn't particularly happy and didn't mention anything about Prince Lance drugging her. She believed Prince Lance wouldn't bring it up to her father, and she wouldn't either. Her father would likely not seek justice for her and would instead say she was being unreasonable. For the past few days, Claire stayed in the Peach Blossom Pavilion, working on her small creations until Emily couldn't hold back any longer and stormed in. That day, the weather was nice, and Prince Lance had sent people to deliver some small toys to Claire, bringing in box after box to the pavilion. Emily, unable to contain her temper, came to cause trouble. "Claire Crawford, you lowly woman, do you really think you can rise to become a phoenix? Do you even know your status, dreaming of becoming Prince Lance's wife in broad daylight?" Emily shouted as she smashed up the Peach Blossom Pavilion. Claire had been waiting for Emily to cause trouble. If she behaved, Claire feared her father would force her to marry Prince Lance. With Emily causing a scene, Claire had someone to shield her. What are you saying, dear sister? I don't understand. Visiting Prince Lance's residence to admire flowers was father's arrangement. What does it have to do with me? If you want to marry Prince Lance, tell father yourself, or do you fancy these gifts from Prince Lance? I'll have Willow Green bring them to your courtyard, Claire feigned innocence, further infuriating Emily. Emily charged at her, and Claire dodged, intentionally allowing Emily to slap her once, before kicking Emily to the ground. It seemed Emily suffered more. However, since Emily initiated the trouble, it alarmed the matron Eleanor Crawford and Lord Crawford. Margaret Seymour also hurried to the Peach Blossom Pavilion. Father, today I went to congratulate my third sister, but she mocked me, saying that my face was ruined and that you no longer loved me. She even called me a vile woman, Emily Crawford said while crying. Claire Crawford then knelt down before Lord Crawford with a thud. Father, I am wronged, you must stand up for me. Those vile words were actually my elder sister chasing after me, calling me names. She even said I was delusional and not worthy of marrying Prince Lance. Matters of marriage should naturally be decided by you, father. Emily Crawford was known for being the most coquettish, always getting her way with Lord Crawford, sometimes even more so than Vincent Crawford. This was because Emily had learned her skills well from Margaret Seymour. Her crying was pitiful, but now everything seemed to have changed. Claire Crawford cried even more pitifully than Emily, especially since Emily had slapped her, causing Lord Crawford to become furious. The two of you, fighting like this in the women's quarters? Lord Crawford angrily pointed at the two kneeling on the ground, but ultimately helped Claire up. He knew Emily's temperament better than anyone. Just as he said this, Margaret Seymour also knelt down with a thud. Lord, Emily hasn't been well these days. She only wanted to share your worries and went to see Claire. I don't know what happened, she meant well visiting Claire. How did it turn out like this? Lord Crawford frowned. Margaret Seymour still held a significant place in his heart, being a woman of noble upbringing and knowing how to act coy. As Lord Crawford hesitated, a voice spoke from behind them, the family discipline of Lord Crawford truly opens my eyes. ### Chapter 9, is this how you repay me, your king? Lord Crawford truly did not wish to punish Margaret Seymour. After all, he had been spending nights at Margaret Seymour's residence, which led to Emily Crawford causing a scene at the Peach Blossom Pavilion. At this moment, Prince Tan appeared, as composed as ever, catching Lord Crawford off guard. Lady Eleanor Crawford and Margaret Seymour were utterly perplexed. Why was the Prince of Tan at the Peach Blossom Pavilion? Father, His Highness Prince Tan is here to help deliver a few trinkets for His Highness Prince Lance. I hope Prince Lance won't think poorly of our Vincent estate. The implication was clear: if Prince Lance discovered the lack of discipline in the household, it would be a laughingstock. Now, Lord Crawford had no choice but to deal with Margaret Seymour, otherwise, the scandal would be unbearable. Glancing at Prince Tan, he finally burst out in anger. Look at you. Is this the well-behaved daughter you have raised? Take her away at once. Emily, kneel in the ancestral hall for 3 days, and you, remain confined for a month. Claire Crawford remained silent throughout, standing aside with tears of grievance. Lord Crawford now had different plans for Claire Crawford and stepped forward to console her. Claire, you've been wronged in this matter. The presence of Prince Tan displeased Lord Crawford, unaware that at this moment, Prince Tan's men were ransacking his study, searching for correspondence between him and Prince Lance. Claire Crawford and Prince Tan's commotion meant that Lord Crawford would inevitably visit Margaret Seymour's residence tonight. Despite outwardly punishing Margaret Seymour, he still favored her. Once everyone dispersed, Prince Tan mentioned he had something to give Claire Crawford, exchanged a few private words, and stayed at the Peach Blossom Pavilion. I've seen many eloquent people, but when it comes to shedding tears, not even the top courtesan can cry as beautifully as you. Today, Prince Tan was truly impressed by Claire Crawford's display of vulnerability. She stood there, quietly shedding tears, evoking sympathy from those who saw her. Claire Crawford wiped her face, no longer appearing pitiful, glanced sideways at Prince Tan, and said, "How could I compare to your highness, arriving just in time? I wonder if your little attendant found what you were looking for." Prince Tan claimed he had something to discuss with her, but after everyone left, he rummaged through Claire Crawford's room and casually took a small toy she had made. It was evident he was waiting for someone. Who could he be waiting for in the Vincent estate? Claire Crawford quickly deduced that this scoundrel was using her as a shield, but she didn't mind. It wasn't until Seven Moon silently descended from the rooftop into the Peach Blossom Pavilion that Prince Tan, seeing Seven Moon return, asked, "Aren't you worried I might harm your father or the Vincent estate?" He was, after all, searching for letters in Lord Crawford's study. Claire Crawford was clever enough to realize he intended to confront Lord Crawford. Yet, as Lord Crawford's daughter, she could see through his intentions and even help conceal them. Truly, a woman's heart is unfathomable. "What does the Vincent estate have to do with me? Remember, Your Highness, our relationship is purely cooperative. If things go awry, don't forget to leave some silver behind." Claire Crawford saw things clearly, her mind sharp, and Prince Tan found himself even more impressed with her. "The chest of items is probably not to your liking. This is a gift from me to you." Prince Tan placed a jade hairpin, shaped like a magnolia flower, on the table. At first glance, the hairpin seemed unremarkable. Claire Crawford picked up the hairpin and looked at it, then aimed it towards King Tan and pressed a petal. Instantly, dozens of silver needles shot out. King Tan deftly dodged them, squinting his eyes with a smile as he looked at Claire Crawford. "I gifted you this, and this is how you repay me?" This hairpin was crafted by the most skilled weapons master in King Tan's residence, and as soon as he saw it, he thought of Claire Crawford. "Wasn't it to show King Tan how exquisite your gift is?" "Thank you, I really like it. It's far better than Prince Lance's childish toys." Alright, although Claire Crawford's actions annoyed him a bit, her words were certainly pleasing. "The little beauty is always right," King Tan chuckled before turning to leave. Claire Crawford placed the orchid hairpin back in the jewelry box, but her thoughts lingered on the small toy chest Prince Lance had given her. The next afternoon, Claire Crawford was invited to the main hall for a meal. It wasn't because the head lady was generous, but because Lord Crawford specifically instructed that Claire Crawford should dine in the main hall, leaving the head lady with no choice but to comply. "Claire, in 7 days, it will be Princess Amelia's 18th coming-of-age banquet. Royal Consort Florence has secured the privilege from His Majesty, allowing officials of rank 3 and above to bring their female family members to attend. You must dress appropriately and prepare a coming-of-age gift for Princess Amelia, so as not to embarrass your father." The meal was tasteless for Claire Crawford. Clearly, Lord Crawford wanted her to make an appearance at Princess Amelia's coming-of-age banquet, likely paving the way for her to become Prince Lance's consort. After finishing her meal, Claire Crawford returned to the Peach Blossom Pavilion and instructed Willow Green to investigate Princess Amelia. Princess Amelia was the only daughter of the Empress and the fiancée of General Phoenix Quinn, who was currently stationed in the Northwest. The Empress was childless, yet her family controlled 10,000 imperial guards both inside and outside the palace. The commander of these guards was the Empress's own brother, and Princess Amelia had been leading a small elite unit of vanguard guards in recent years. However, the Empress rarely visited the Weiyang Palace, and Princess Amelia was favored by the Emperor from a young age. Currently, Royal Consort Florence was in charge of the palace, and she was the mother of Prince Lance, which made Claire Crawford feel uneasy. Even if she wanted to avoid it, she couldn't. Claire Crawford had no appetite even at night. Willow Green and Snowfrost thought she was troubled by the preparations for Princess Amelia's coming-of-age ceremony. "Miss, I've heard that the head lady and Margaret Seymour have argued several times over the preparations for Princess Amelia's ceremony. But Margaret Seymour, despite being favored, couldn't compare to the head lady and returned with a sullen face after being scolded." Claire Crawford nodded, not paying much attention, and instructed that in the coming days, she would not see anyone, not even Prince Lance. Even if she wanted to avoid it, she couldn't. Claire Crawford had no appetite even at night. Willow Green and Snowfrost thought she was troubled by the preparations for Princess Amelia's coming-of-age ceremony. "Miss, I've heard that the head lady and Margaret Seymour have argued several times over the preparations for Princess Amelia's ceremony. But Margaret Seymour, despite being favored, couldn't compare to the head lady and returned with a sullen face after being scolded." Claire Crawford nodded, not paying much attention, and instructed that in the coming days, she would not see anyone, not even Prince Lance. The next day at noon, Prince Lance sent over a pair of shoes made from tuo-jean silk. On the market, tuo-jean silk is worth thousands of gold, highly valued and rare. Prince Lance certainly knows how to be generous. Claire Crawford glanced at the tuo-jean silk shoes without any hint of joy. She didn't believe that such a precious gift would make Princess Amelia happy for her coming-of-age ceremony. Moreover, she had been keeping to herself and not meeting anyone these past few days. How did Prince Lance know she was troubled because of Princess Amelia's ceremony? There must be quite a few spies in her peach blossom pavilion. Prince Lance's influence is almost otherworldly, even reaching into her domain. Chapter 10, asking the first madam for silver in the evening. While Claire Crawford was in her room, Prince Tan sneaked in through the window again, only to end up covered in an unknown powder. Every time Prince Tan visited, it was always in the middle of the night, waiting until the maids and servants at Peach Blossom Pavilion were fast asleep before sneaking in through the window. This time, however, he miscalculated. In a bad mood, Claire Crawford had placed her specially made fragrant powder by the window, which wouldn't fade for 10 days or even half a month. For a prince like Tan, having the scent of a woman's powder on him would certainly cause quite a bit of laughter. "Hey, woman, I came here out of goodwill to help you, yet you set me up." Prince Tan accused Claire Crawford of repaying kindness with enmity, feeling disgruntled, as the powder's scent quickly transferred onto Claire Crawford. Annoyed, Claire Crawford reluctantly took out the antidote for the powder's scent, only for Prince Tan to snatch it quickly, placing the box on the table. "Third Miss Crawford, don't repay kindness with enmity. I went through quite an effort to get this from the first house as a coming-of-age gift for Amelia." Claire Crawford, therefore, didn't bother to argue over him taking her antidote and took the box to open it, revealing a soft whip inside. Claire Crawford was quite puzzled. A noble princess, cherished and adored, liking a whip? You should know, the commander of the Imperial Guards is Amelia's maternal uncle, and Amelia's fiancé is the great general defending the Northwest, Phoenix Quinn. Do you think Amelia would be a girl who likes luxurious clothes and jewelry? Claire Crawford found some logic in this and accepted the gift Prince Tan prepared. "Thank you," Claire Crawford expressed her gratitude, but Prince Tan, not one to suffer losses, casually took away the newly made universal poison pill from Claire Crawford. Infuriated, Claire Crawford cursed loudly, but Prince Tan didn't consider himself an outsider. The next day, Willow Green attended to Claire Crawford's morning routine, and Snowfrost came to report, "Miss, the eldest miss received a 7-colored celestial dress, the second miss got a priceless Lily 8 treasures jewelry set. Miss, I think you should give Princess Amelia the satin brocade shoes that Prince Lance gifted you, otherwise, the eldest and second miss will surely mock you." Claire Crawford just smiled without saying anything. Princess Amelia, born into the royal family, had seen all sorts of fine things. Even priceless items would probably seem the same to her. "Snowfrost, go ask the first madam for some silver, get 1,000 taels of gold, and say it's to prepare a gift for Princess Amelia. If the first madam doesn't agree, tell her that father instructed it, and she will give it." Claire Crawford thought, why not gather more gold and silver? Of course, the gold she obtained would go into her own pocket and not to that Prince Tan, who didn't seem to lack wealth. Besides, last night he took her universal poison pill, who knows whom he intends to poison with it. That pill wasn't cheap. As expected, the first madam obediently handed over the gold, which Claire Crawford kept for herself. The next morning, Prince Lance sent someone to deliver clothes, saying he had spoken with Vincent and hoped Claire Crawford would dress beautifully today. That day, Claire Crawford styled her hair in a morning cloud's fragrant bun, adorned with a tilted silver hairpin of prosperity and double happiness, held a hexagonal silk fan, wore a smoky purple embroidered butterfly robe, and a pair of cloud-embroidered shoes, causing the first madam's dissatisfaction. Vincent Crawford was already dressed well, and Emily Crawford was no less impressive. Previously, the two of them competed in elegance. Now, with Claire Crawford dressed beautifully, she immediately outshone them both. However, Vincent's intention was clear: Vincent Crawford and Emily Crawford should not overshadow Claire Crawford, showing his obvious favoritism. Although the madam had her doubts, it wasn't the right time to argue. "Claire has arrived, the carriage is ready. It's clear today is different from before. Get on the carriage, missing the auspicious time wouldn't be good," the madam subtly hinted. Claire Crawford didn't mind, boarded the carriage, and closed her eyes to relax. The carriage slowly moved forward, and upon reaching the palace gates, a young eunuch led the madam and the three of them inside. The palace was unlike their residence, every move required decorum. Claire Crawford followed last, entering the main hall with the madam. She expected Princess Amelia's coming-of-age ceremony to be extravagant, but in the main hall, they merely placed gifts, which were recorded and analyzed for Princess Amelia's preferences. The gifts from Vincent Crawford and Emily Crawford were directly sent to storage, while Claire Crawford's gift was selected for Princess Amelia to view personally. Vincent Crawford and Emily Crawford's expressions were extremely displeased. "Why do you servants say our gifts aren't good?" Vincent Crawford protested. The eunuch retorted, "Second Miss Crawford, it's useless to tell us. We understand Her Highness the Princess, and you are merely an outsider. You should quickly head to the martial training ground. Princess Amelia is hosting the ceremony there, and being late would be disrespectful." The madam pulled Vincent Crawford back and apologized to the eunuch, who then escorted them to the martial training ground. She thought to herself that it was odd for a princess's grand coming-of-age ceremony to be held at the martial training ground, but she dared not speak her mind. Little did she know, Princess Amelia, beloved by the emperor, was raised with a boyish temperament and detested palace banquets, hence the choice of venue. "Madam Vincent, His Majesty has decreed that each family will send someone to participate in competitions, including archery, horseback archery, and single combat." "Who will the Vincent household send?" The madam was taken aback. Vincent had no sons, only a foster son, and all the daughters were delicate. But she realized this was a perfect opportunity. "Of course, my third daughter, Claire Crawford." The madam announced Claire Crawford's name, smiling as she watched Claire Crawford looking around. Since Vincent wanted to elevate Claire Crawford, she would support her fully, letting her make a spectacle of herself in front of the other noblewomen. By then, how could Claire Crawford compete with her own daughters for Prince Lance? Claire Crawford would be insignificant. Willow Green noticed the madam speaking quietly with the eunuch and whispered, "Miss, be careful. The madam might be hiding something." Claire Crawford smirked and said, "It's fine, Willow Green. Try this pastry, the palace pastries are indeed delicious." Willow Green, pleased with the treat, was joyful, while Snowfrost seemed to be staring into the distance, where a lively crowd of noble women gathered, leaving no gaps. Chapter 11, Archery Contest. Claire Crawford looked straight ahead. It was naturally Prince Lance who arrived, surrounded by a crowd, much like a mother hen being observed, which made her somewhat annoyed. Prince Lance had arrived, so where was Prince Qin? Claire Crawford scanned the surroundings but still couldn't find him. She wondered where he had gone. He never appeared when needed and was overly diligent when not. She had initially wanted to ask Prince Qin about the day's events, but now it seemed ruined. She always felt that Prince Lance's gaze toward her was particularly disgusting. The more she disliked someone, the more that annoying person would come near her. "Miss Crawford, you look particularly meticulous today. Is it perhaps for me?" Prince Lance flashed a smile he thought was charming, nearly causing Claire Crawford to lose her breakfast and dinner. "Thank you for the compliment, Prince Lance. You don't look too bad yourself," she replied, comparing him to a mother hen, flamboyantly dressed and surrounded by people. "It seems we both look good today. Indeed, it's a fine day," Prince Lance said with a different implication. Claire Crawford squinted at him, suspecting he had some hidden agenda to irritate her. Soon after, royal consort Florence and the legendary Princess Amelia made their slow entrance. Royal consort Florence's presence needed no further mention, followed by 12 maids and eunuchs. Princess Amelia, on the other hand, exuded strength, unlike other noble ladies adorned with gold and silver. She wore a practical outfit, suitable for martial training. Today was originally a banquet prepared for Princess Amelia's birthday. The emperor had sent word that he was still busy with state affairs, so the event began without him. Claire Crawford wasn't particularly interested, sipping tea and idly passing the time, unlike the head lady who dragged Vincent Crawford around to greet everyone. Whenever someone praised Vincent Crawford, the head lady would be overjoyed. The smaller contests ahead were unremarkable. Horse riding and sword fighting were typical, with no rare treasures as prizes. The highlight was an imperial bow, once belonging to the previous dynasty's emperor, stained with blood and used in battle. Very few could draw it, making it a priceless artifact. This demonstrated Princess Amelia's importance, otherwise, the final prize of the archery contest wouldn't carry such weight. Few men, let alone women, participated in the archery contest. Most attendees were meticulously dressed noble sons and daughters. The head lady watched the excitement while royal consort Florence signaled with a glance. On the men's side, Rising Blossom stood up and approached the stage. Pointing at Claire Crawford, who was enjoying tea and pastries, he declared, "I challenge Miss Claire Crawford of the Vincent household." Rising Blossom was from royal consort Florence's maternal family, known as a young tyrant, appointed by the emperor as a minor guest official, essentially a royal student. This time, royal consort Florence had him teach Miss Crawford a lesson. In her view, if Claire Crawford was humiliated, Prince Lance's repeated protection would ensure she wouldn't willingly surrender. Claire Crawford was engrossed in her snacks, which were tiny, translucent pastries with inscriptions on them. They read, "Beauty, be cautious, I have found reinforcements for you." Clearly, it was Prince Qin's handwriting. Enjoying her snacks, Claire Crawford heard the challenge from the other side. Willow Green, alarmed, said, "My lady usually only does embroidery in her chamber. How can Mr. Blossom challenge her?" However, Claire Crawford continued to enjoy her breakfast. Princess Amelia, sitting next to royal consort Florence, appeared somewhat displeased and said, "Today is my birthday party, everyone should be happy." Rising Blossom, "Don't ruin my banquet." Royal consort Florence smiled and replied, "Rising Blossom is just being childish. Let them play around, don't take it seriously." Before Princess Amelia could intervene, Claire Crawford had already stood up and calmly responded, "I accept." Just then, a gentle breeze swept through, carrying the scent of 100 flowers in the air. The first to speak was Vincent Crawford, who sarcastically remarked, "Do you realize that Rising Blossom is royal consort Florence's nephew? You dare accept his challenge? Are you insane? If you win, fine, but with your skills, if you lose, you'll disgrace the entire Vincent household." Emily Crawford chimed in with feigned concern, "Claire, perhaps you should beg royal consort Florence and Princess Amelia for forgiveness. Surely, considering your father's reputation, they won't be too hard on you." Emily's words were cleverly crafted. If Claire truly backed down due to Vincent's status, the news would spread throughout the town within an hour. Vincent was known as a martial general, but the third Miss Crawford was neither skilled in academics nor martial arts, bringing shame to Vincent at Princess Amelia's banquet. "Claire, it's really difficult for you. The rules of the duel cannot be broken. If someone challenges you, you must respond, you can't refuse." The matron pretended to worry, though her tone betrayed her true intentions. Claire Crawford was well aware of the situation, these three were up to no good. "I accept this challenge, so the matron need not worry," Claire Crawford replied coldly. To the matron, Claire seemed to be struggling futilely. How could a golden-haired girl possibly know archery? When she embarrassed herself, how would she handle it? Rising Blossom was also taken aback. Originally instructed by royal consort Florence, he aimed to impress the beautiful Vincent Crawford he had recently met. He thought if Claire Crawford was so scared that she couldn't accept the challenge, he could mock her. Unexpectedly, she not only accepted but also confidently stepped onto the stage. As Claire Crawford ascended the platform, even Prince Lance beside her was somewhat surprised. According to his investigation, Claire Crawford supposedly knew nothing about archery, so why did she dare to step up? Was she pretending? Claire Crawford smiled, a stunning smile, as Rising Blossom had royal consort Florence prepare the bow and arrows. "Mr. Blossom, although your reputation isn't great, a man wanting to duel with me, a weak woman, let's follow the rules today. I won't let you go easy on me," Claire Crawford spoke up. Outwardly, she appeared courteous, but her underlying message was that Rising Blossom was not only bullying a young girl but also uneducated. Seeing royal consort Florence nod, Rising Blossom understood the implication. His reputation was already tarnished, so he might as well go all the way and ensure Claire Crawford didn't have an easy time. "Miss Crawford, now that you're on stage, you can't back down. Why not concede, and I'll spare you?" Claire Crawford looked at Rising Blossom, who was oblivious to the situation, and smirked. If someone is determined to meet their doom, you can't stop them. Chapter 12, Slapping Young Master Hua. Spare me? Young Master Hua, you're exaggerating a bit. My father is the first-rank marquis, commanding the emperor's armored troops. Do you think I'm a weak and delicate lady? If young Master Hua is interested, I can't let him down. A contest is like a battlefield, it can't be stopped. Don't you agree? Rising Blossom was too bewildered to react, thinking Claire Crawford was boasting. Besides, with the bow and arrow royal consort Florence prepared for him, he was sure to win today. Young Master Hua, since it's a contest, we should set some rules. What do you think, Princess Amelia? Claire Crawford gambled that Princess Amelia would not refuse. Today, anyone with clarity could see she was being framed. Princess Amelia, you're not on the same side as royal consort Florence, and the Qin king once said he'd find someone to assist her. Claire Crawford believed Princess Amelia was the one the Qin king had chosen for her. Third Miss Crawford has accepted the challenge, as it should be, Princess Amelia replied, and Claire Crawford smiled. She glanced at the bow and arrow on Rising Blossom's back, observing his calm demeanor, and said, if Princess Amelia agrees, why don't we settle this with one match? The Emperor's bow will be the prize. Young Master Hua, you and I will both use the Emperor's bow for the contest. Whoever hits the bullseye wins, and the loser must apologize in front of everyone. Do you dare? The large contest arena fell silent. The Emperor's bow was not something even skilled swordsmen could easily handle, let alone a young girl like Claire Crawford. Yet, she spoke with such certainty, her small frame seemingly filled with limitless potential. Rising Blossom stood stunned, wondering how a young girl could be so formidable and boastful. Claire Crawford watched his indecisive expression, seeing him as a clown bringing about his own downfall, truly pitiful. Vincent Crawford sneered, Mother, look at her, causing such a commotion. When she embarrasses herself, won't it also disgrace our Crawford family? Indeed, Emily Crawford chimed in, as a woman, she shouldn't meddle with such things. Prince Lance, please don't laugh at our third sister. She's probably just trying to prove herself. Emily's words were merely an attempt to converse with Prince Lance. With Claire Crawford on stage, no one was beside Prince Lance, and everyone gathered around him. She had to find a way to secure Prince Lance's attention. The matron was furious. Emily Crawford was adept at flattering Prince Lance, while she had put so much effort into pushing Claire Crawford onto the stage, only for Emily to seize the opportunity. Meanwhile, her own daughter, Vincent Crawford, kept her distance from Prince Lance, leaving the matron seething with anger. Prince Lance occasionally responded to Emily Crawford, but his eyes were fixed on Claire Crawford on the stage. It was known that a gentle and obedient woman was adorable, yet a little cat with claws was even more captivating. This imperial bow is not something ordinary people can handle, remarked Rei Qin, the younger brother of General Phoenix Qin, who was here to celebrate Princess Amelia's birthday and witnessed an exciting scene. People live to strive, and I find the third Miss Crawford has spirit, Prince Lance commented, implying that he knew Claire Crawford couldn't win this time. In fact, not only Prince Lance thought so, others did too. Regardless of how good Rising Blossom's archery was, Claire Crawford was always the third daughter of the Crawfords, a sheltered lady. Even if Rising Blossom's archery wasn't perfect and didn't hit the bullseye, she could still hit the target. But Claire Crawford might not be able to. The imperial bow weighed over 10 pounds and required great arm strength. Whether she could even draw the bow was uncertain. Not far away, in a pavilion, a man in purple was carving a jade pendant, his face unmatched beneath a silver mask. Your Highness, aren't you worried about third Miss Crawford at all? Seven Moon asked, knowing that Rising Blossom was a martial artist. While archery might not be her forte, she was certainly not a novice. The prince didn't look up, continuing to carve the jade pendant in his hand. Today was Princess Amelia's birthday, yet this prince brother of hers was absent. People said the prince was indulgent, forgetting Princess Amelia's birthday, yet here he was, carving a jade pendant. The outcome was already determined, so why worry? She's not just a little kitten, said King Tan, leaving Seven Moon even more puzzled. On the other side, Claire Crawford's lips curled into a cold smile, seemingly dismissing the Emperor's bow. Speaking of archery, Claire Crawford had previously trained in mounted archery, alongside thousands of trainers from Huaxia. Forget the emperor's bow, she had to be on guard against ambushes, compete with muscular men, and still hit the bullseye accurately. In comparison, what was Rising Blossom? Rising Blossom was a spoiled man whose confidence was crumbling, especially when faced with Claire Crawford's icy smile that made him tremble all over. Once the mentality collapses, everything is over. Claire Crawford allowed Rising Blossom to shoot first. Although he managed to draw the emperor's bow, it was with great difficulty, let alone hitting the bullseye. The first arrow didn't even come close, and Rising Blossom's shoulder was in agony. For the second arrow, he exerted all his strength but only grazed the bullseye, causing the crowd to burst into laughter. By the third arrow, he used all his might and barely hit the target, still far from the bullseye. Rising Blossom sighed. What was the point of using the emperor's bow? Even though he only hit one arrow, he turned to Claire Crawford and said, "Hey, the emperor's bow isn't ordinary. You saw how I did, don't embarrass yourself." Rising Blossom hoped to downplay the situation, hoping Claire would let it go without further competition. But unexpectedly, after he spoke, Claire Crawford walked past him, her gaze cold and mocking. She took the emperor's bow from his hands. This bow was clearly an exceptional weapon. Claire accepted an arrow from a guard, aimed at the distant bullseye, and with her cold smile, released a single arrow that hit the center of the bullseye perfectly. "Master Hua, do I need to shoot a second arrow?" she asked. While Rising Blossom had struggled to hit the target with 3 arrows, Claire Crawford hit the bullseye with just one, a clear slap in his face. At that moment, Rising Blossom wished he could find a hole to hide in. Just as everyone was in awe, applause suddenly erupted from behind. Chapter 13, The Betrothal, whose daughter is this? The emperor's spirits lifted immediately upon seeing her, and as he approached with his courtiers, he applauded in admiration. It had been a long time since he had seen such a formidable young woman. When she drew the emperor's bow, her commanding presence was akin to a hero's, yet she was a woman. It was clear she was no ordinary person. Claire Crawford noticed the emperor's arrival, accompanied by Marquis Crawford, and respectfully greeted him. "Your Majesty, I am the third daughter of the Vincent household, Claire Crawford, at your service." The emperor was very pleased. Marquis Crawford, whom he had personally promoted, had such an outstanding daughter, confirming his good judgment. Moreover, the emperor had already considered choosing a princess from among Marquis Crawford's daughters, and now Claire Crawford stood out, much to his delight. "Excellent, Marquis Crawford has taught his daughter well. I am very fond of her," the emperor praised Claire Crawford, drawing everyone's attention to her. It was evident that from today onwards, Claire Crawford was not just the third daughter of the Vincent household but someone esteemed by the emperor, elevating her status. "Your Majesty's favor towards my daughter is our great fortune," Marquis Crawford replied tactfully, having long hoped for the emperor's attention on Claire Crawford. Now, he was even more satisfied. Claire Crawford had given him a pleasant surprise. He had no idea when she learned archery, but it certainly brought him pride. After thanking the emperor, Marquis Crawford glanced at Prince Lance. Claire Crawford noticed all of Marquis Crawford's reactions and understood his intentions clearly. She realized it would be difficult to avoid today's outcome. Reward her with a pair of jade rouille, a pair of fragrant sachets, a pair of mandarin duck peony pendants, 1,000 taels of gold, and 100 bolts of silk. The young men of the capital are no match for Marquis Crawford's daughter. "Look at you all, only knowing how to indulge," the emperor expressed some displeasure towards Rising Blossom. Typically, Rising Blossom had the backing of royal consort Florence and could present himself before the emperor, but today he had lost face significantly. The emperor's impression of him worsened, and Rising Blossom could only kneel in apology before retreating to avoid drawing attention. "Thank you, Your Majesty," Claire Crawford acknowledged the emperor's displeasure, while Marquis Crawford appeared smug. She was unsure whether her prominence today was a blessing or a curse. Princess Amelia, seeing the emperor's arrival, smiled and stepped forward. "Father, you're late. You owe a drink as a penalty." The emperor adored Princess Amelia, otherwise, he wouldn't have organized such a grand birthday celebration. Moreover, Princess Amelia's straightforward nature, akin to a son's, made her even more endearing to him. "Indeed, my daughter has truly been spoiled by me," the emperor said, as Princess Amelia clung to his arm. In truth, Princess Amelia was concerned that the Emperor's excessive favor towards Claire Crawford might not be beneficial. After all, she had been asked to look after Claire Crawford. The Emperor's favor towards a concubine's daughter from the Marquis household might not necessarily be a good thing. Princess Amelia had already shielded Claire Crawford once, and whether Claire could escape this situation was beyond her control. That day, the Emperor was in high spirits and had a few drinks at Princess Amelia's birthday celebration. When General Phoenix Qin returns triumphantly, Amelia should be married off, the Emperor remarked. Princess Amelia, holding a cup of wine, understood that as a princess, she enjoyed luxury but also bore the responsibilities of her position. Years ago, the Emperor had decreed her betrothal to Phoenix Qin to strengthen ties with the Qin family. She understood this clearly, and the only consolation was that Phoenix Qin treated her well. "Father, I wish to stay by your side forever," Princess Amelia said, aware of what the Emperor intended. She was already struggling with her own affairs and couldn't manage others. Royal Consort Florence, standing nearby, smiled. Her ability to understand the Emperor's thoughts was the reason for her favored position in the harem. "Your Majesty, even if Princess Amelia marries into the Qin family, she remains your little princess." Speaking of which, the third daughter of the Crawford family seems to be the same age as Princess Amelia. Royal Consort Florence deftly shifted the conversation to Claire Crawford. Claire, trying to minimize her presence, couldn't escape the attention. She knew Royal Consort Florence had ulterior motives but still had to respond, attempting to appear cheerful. "This daughter is very pleasing to me, comparable to Amelia," the Emperor praised Claire Crawford highly. For a secondary daughter of a Marquis household to receive such praise, Royal Consort Florence understood the Emperor's intentions. "Your Majesty, don't just focus on Princess Amelia. Our Prince Lance is still unmarried." "When you were his age, you had already married the Empress," Royal Consort Florence remarked, making the Emperor smile. Prince Lance saw this as the perfect opportunity. With Royal Consort Florence paving the way and the Crawford family on his side, and the Emperor's approval, he felt he had everything in his favor. Claire Crawford was exceptional, a rare blessing, and he was determined to win her over. "Father, I have someone in my heart. I hope you will grant my wish." Prince Lance suddenly stood up before everyone, slowly approached the Emperor, and knelt. This gesture marked the beginning of a destined relationship. "Oh? Prince Lance, with so many noble ladies here today, whose daughter has caught your eye?" the Emperor inquired. Prince Lance looked at Claire Crawford and said, "Father, I love the third daughter of the Crawford family, Claire Crawford. I hope you will decree our marriage and fulfill my heartfelt wish." The Emperor nodded in satisfaction, pleased that Prince Lance never disappointed him and understood his thoughts. The Marquis of Crawford was a trusted figure, and his daughter marrying Prince Lance was a fitting match. "Oh? You've chosen the third daughter of the Crawford family, but we must see if the Marquis agrees," the Emperor said, prompting the Marquis to kneel. "Your Majesty, Prince Lance's noble status." "I'm afraid my daughter's status is not worthy of him," the Marquis feigned reluctance. Royal Consort Florence skillfully added, "Your Majesty, if status is a concern, why not bestow the title of County Princess to elevate Miss Crawford's status?" Thus, the Emperor decreed Claire Crawford as the Anping County Princess, elevating her status. "In that case, I decree the marriage between Prince Lance and the Anping County Princess. The Imperial Astrologer will select an auspicious date for this grand celebration," the Emperor declared. The marriage between Claire Crawford and Prince Lance was decided effortlessly by those of higher status. Claire feigned surprise but felt deep disdain inside. No one asked for her consent. Prince Lance was interested, the Emperor decreed, but what about her? She didn't even have the right to object. Chapter 14, A sip of wine sparks rage. The First Lady pulled Claire Crawford forward to express gratitude. Although Claire was reluctant, she had to comply, as the First Lady was her nominal mother and the head of the household. Claire had to smile and not let others see any discord. As she was pulled forward, Claire knelt and said, "Thank you, Your Majesty, for granting this marriage. I, your humble servant, accept the decree." A cold glint flashed in her eyes as she stood beside Prince Lance. Everyone then rose to congratulate Prince Lance and Claire Crawford. With toasts exchanged, both Claire and Prince Lance smiled at the assembled guests. "Now, I have given you everything possible," Prince Lance whispered to Claire. The implication was clear: Claire should be grateful for her future position as his consort, a privilege others could only dream of. Claire smiled coolly, a hint of ruthlessness in her eyes. Did he really think so highly of himself? Did he truly believe she coveted the position of his consort? "Your Highness, this was your decision, not my request," Claire replied bluntly. Her words meant only for Prince Lance, though they left him somewhat uncomfortable. The First Lady was fuming, seeing Claire now elevated to the position of Prince Lance's consort, with many people currying favor with her. This ordinary daughter not only held the title of Onping County Princess but now surpassed her own daughter's status. Meanwhile, her daughter, Vincent Crawford, showed no interest in Prince Lance. How could she have raised a daughter who didn't know how to compete? "First Lady, who would have thought we'd be congratulating our sister? Now that our third sister is to be Prince Lance's consort, she might even surpass our second sister," Emily Crawford remarked, her face expressionless, clearly trying to sow discord. The First Lady glared at Emily and snapped, "Be quiet. Is it your place to speak here?" Emily fell silent, her eyes flashing with malice. She believed she deserved to be Prince Lance's consort, given her mother's favor with Lord Crawford. It was a bitter pill to swallow that Claire had been granted the marriage by the Emperor. "First Lady, I recently received news that your adopted son, Jade Stone, is returning from the northwestern battlefield. With the victory there, Jade Stone is likely to be promoted upon his return." Prince Lance would not mention someone without reason. No matter how clever the First Lady was, Lord Crawford had always been without a son. Jade Stone was the sole descendant of the Stone family. The Emperor did not want to raise someone in the palace, so Lord Crawford helped the Emperor by taking Jade Stone as his adopted son. However, even so, Lord Crawford was very cautious of Jade Stone. The First Lady, who was supposed to be raising Jade Stone, actually did not like him. The main reason was her daughter, Vincent Crawford. Vincent and Jade Stone grew up together, childhood sweethearts. The experienced First Lady understood Jade Stone's intentions, which is why she persuaded Lord Crawford to send Jade Stone to the northwest battlefield. But she didn't expect that not only would Jade Stone return, he might even be promoted. Is Prince Lance really telling the truth? Vincent Crawford, who usually showed no interest in others, immediately asked when he heard Prince Lance. "Of course," Prince Lance replied, causing Vincent Crawford's face to light up with anticipation. The First Lady was furious, though she did not show it. She had her own plans. Claire Crawford, observing everything from the side, noticed it all. She had investigated everyone in the household except for Jade Stone, whom she had never met. It seemed that to change the current situation, she needed to find someone with shared goals. That day, when Claire Crawford returned from the palace, Lord Crawford was in high spirits. Before she returned to the Peach Blossom Pavilion, he reminded her to rest well, which annoyed the First Lady and her two daughters. As soon as Claire reached the pavilion, she was ambushed from behind. Fortunately, her martial skills were excellent. In a real fight, one uses true martial arts or creates some disturbance, but when Claire realized it was Prince Tan, she went weak. Prince Tan, as expected, caught her. Smack! Claire Crawford slapped him hard without hesitation. Prince Tan was taken aback by the slap. Women and villains are hard to manage, getting drunk and going crazy? Prince Tan, though slapped, was not angry since he was in the wrong for ambushing her. He had always wanted to test Claire's martial skills and was surprised at her prowess even after drinking. Not as bad as Prince Tan's sneak attack. "I am now Prince Lance's consort, so unless it's important, leave quickly." "Do I need to call someone?" Claire raised an eyebrow. She had indeed drunk a lot, and while not drunk, she was tired of pretending. In the palace, she had been toasted and smiled so much her jaw hurt. "I came specifically to give you a gift, don't repay kindness with resentment." He handed her a box. Inside was a carved jade pendant and a letter detailing information about Jade Stone and the First Lady. Jade Stone had been harmed by the First Lady countless times. Prince Tan thought Claire needed an ally, and if Jade Stone returned and was not aligned with the First Lady, it would greatly benefit Claire. Moreover, Prince Lance wanted to recruit Jade Stone, and Prince Tan did not want him to become Prince Lance's ally. "Oh, even a masked man can be considerate," Claire remarked, taking the information from Prince Tan, which was exactly what she needed. However, her curiosity was piqued about the face behind the mask. Despite her speed, Prince Tan evaded her attempt to see his face. "To see my face, you must trade a secret of yours," Prince Tan said. Claire glanced at him, realizing that even if she fought him, success was not guaranteed. She waved her hand, saying, "Prince Tan, take care. I won't see you out." In the following days, during the rituals, Claire instructed Willow Green to keep an eye on the First Lady's movements. When the First Lady sent someone to her family with 1,000 taels of silver, Claire knew today was the day. Claire Crawford recently sought out Lord Crawford, expressing her wish to visit the Temple of Manhwa for blessings before the grand wedding. Lord Crawford, eager for the marriage to proceed swiftly, was pleased to see Claire looking forward to it. He even instructed the finance department to provide Claire with some money for her journey. The Temple of Manhwa is a place Jade Stone must pass through on his way back. As autumn approached and the weather grew colder, Claire traveled slowly in a carriage, alone this time, without even Willow Green accompanying her. Chapter 15, Young Master, remember you owe me a life. Jade Stone is actually not a fool. Though his return was grand, he discreetly followed behind. Claire Crawford, dressed in black and masked, first observed the returning procession and was surprised to find the bridal sedan empty. She realized Jade Stone was aware that someone might try to harm him upon his return. It seems this adopted son is quite clever, at least a smart ally, Claire thought as she hid in the forest, contemplating how to rescue Jade Stone to earn his trust. After all, what she discerned, the people sent by the First Madam could also see. Claire suspected the First Madam had involved her brother, River Summer, the deputy commander of the Imperial Guards, who commanded many followers and had his own cultivated influence. Unfortunately, River Summer's son was incompetent, and with River Summer aging, the Emperor intended to replace him. Jade Stone's return posed a threat to River Summer's position. Thus, the First Madam enlisted her brother's help, providing him with Jade Stone's itinerary, ensuring he would deal with Jade Stone. The First Madam's strategy was clever, watching from the sidelines as the conflict unfolded. Makes sense, Claire thought, turning to see Prince Qin behind her, who had arrived unnoticed. Why was he here? Was he hoping she would intervene since it was inconvenient for him to do so? What? Is this your territory? If you can come here, why can't I? The King of Qin raised an eyebrow and lightly tapped Claire Crawford's forehead. The army in front of them slowly moved away, leaving only Claire Crawford glaring at the King of Qin. Get lost, stay away from me. Claire Crawford held back, as she really wanted to win over Jade Stone, regardless of whether the King of Qin could save Jade Stone this time or not, it was her business. Don't be so heartless, I received a secret report that River Summer has mobilized all their elite troops to ambush here. I worry you can't handle it alone, why be so ungrateful? The King of Qin spoke reasonably, but Claire Crawford felt he was being deliberate. Claire Crawford said nothing, and soon, Jade Stone appeared. Still young, knowing not to follow the main force, yet appearing here alone on horseback. Then, Claire Crawford watched as Jade Stone was surrounded. Indeed, River Summer's men appeared from the shadows, using very thin ice silk to instantly cut Jade Stone's horse into pieces. Jade Stone proved capable, dismounting and fighting those men. Claire Crawford, observing from the shadows for a while, understood their tactics. Their martial arts were unremarkable, mainly following the orders of someone hidden in the dark. The whistle was the key to their obedience. The death warriors trained by River Summer follow orders, my men cannot intervene. Miss Crawford, the battlefield is now yours, the King of Qin stated, knowing River Summer would lose this round. Claire Crawford smiled, then swiftly located the black-clad figure hiding in the dark, drew her sword, and killed him in front of Jade Stone. Seeing their commander dead, River Summer's black-clad men hurriedly retreated. Jade Stone was saved and kept looking at Claire Crawford. Thank you for saving my life, may I know your name? Claire Crawford covered her face. In truth, even the original owner wasn't well acquainted with Jade Stone, who rarely left his courtyard, let alone recognize her after 3 years away. If fate allows, we shall meet again. Remember, you owe me a life, she said, keeping her face covered, as she needed to reach the Manhwa temple before sunset. Today, she was out seeking blessings and couldn't afford any mistakes that might expose her weaknesses. Jade Stone didn't press further, as she was his savior. Claire Crawford hurried back to the Manhwa temple, barely managing to change clothes before seeing the King of Qin already dressed. "Your pace isn't very good. I've already taken a nap, and you've just returned?" The King of Qin was clearly teasing. Claire Crawford squinted at him, then heard him continue, "Originally, I wanted to invite Miss Crawford to ride back together, but I thought, since you said you're the future Princess Lance, I must avoid suspicion." "Ah, was this revenge for what she said the other day?" Claire Crawford smiled wryly, seething inside. How petty could a man be? Clearly, he could have given her a ride back, but chose to ride alone, leaving her to walk. And then he had the nerve to show up here and provoke her. "Fine. Your Highness, you are very bold." Claire Crawford let out a cold snort and approached Prince Tan. She pointed to the people in the main hall of the Manhwa temple and said, "Prince Tan, do you see this? Today, as the third young lady of the Marquis household and the future Princess Lance, I came here to seek blessings. Do you know what I want to say?" Claire Crawford was shrewd, and after provoking her, Prince Tan knew he had to be wary of her sneak attacks. "Miss Crawford, you are eloquent, but I'm not a mind reader. How would I know what you want to say?" Prince Tan vaguely felt it was time to leave, fearing bad luck if he stayed. Claire Crawford grabbed Prince Tan's hand and shouted toward the other side, "Someone come quickly, there's a person here being disrespectful to me, seize this madman." Prince Tan was speechless. What was this? He never expected Claire Crawford to use such tactics, disregarding her dignity and status. "Fine, you're impressive. We'll meet again another day." Claire Crawford watched Prince Tan awkwardly climb over the wall to escape, feeling quite satisfied. Serves him right for being so talkative. Now look at him, having to leave in such a humiliating manner. Before leaving, Claire Crawford instructed, "I want all the horses at the Manhwa temple. No one is allowed to ride them away." The people at Manhwa temple knew better than to provoke Claire Crawford. The temple was halfway up the mountain, and without horses, one had to walk down. Poor Prince Tan intended to wait for Claire Crawford to leave before descending, but with no horses available, he was forced to walk down the mountain. When Claire Crawford returned to the mansion, Jade Stone had just arrived back as well, so no one noticed her. However, Claire Crawford didn't mind and quietly returned to the Peach Blossom Pavilion to change her clothes, preparing to watch the drama unfold in the front hall. Chapter 16, Gratitude in the main hall. Jade Stone was indeed a thorn in the side of the First Lady. When it came to feigning and acting, Claire Crawford felt she couldn't compete with Jade Stone. She knew the assassins on the road were sent by the First Lady, so how could Jade Stone not know? Yet he not only knew but also pretended in front of Lord Crawford. "Father, Mother, on the way back this time, I encountered bandits. If it weren't for my superior martial arts, I wouldn't have been able to see you again." Jade Stone spoke while glancing at the First Lady. Lord Crawford didn't think much of it, he only felt that Jade Stone had grown more difficult to control. Lord Crawford worried that when Jade Stone gained more power, he would seize control from him. As for Jade Stone's words, he didn't ponder deeply. Returning safely is good enough. Although Lord Crawford was somewhat indifferent towards Jade Stone, he wasn't at the point of sending assassins after him, as it wasn't yet necessary. But the First Lady was different. Seeing Jade Stone return made her anxious, though now was not the time to speak further. Unexpectedly, Vincent Crawford was oblivious, and upon seeing Jade Stone, she beamed with joy. Previously, she hesitated to approach Prince Lance, but now, seeing Jade Stone, she couldn't stop smiling. "Brother Jade, you've finally returned. Vincent missed you dearly." Jade Stone looked at Vincent Crawford, a trace of tenderness in his eyes. In the entire household, Jade Stone only showed this side to Vincent Crawford. Over the years, the First Lady had secretly plotted numerous times, yet Jade Stone always evaded her traps. "Sister Vincent, I missed you too." Just after Jade Stone spoke, Claire Crawford arrived. She was the last to appear. Emily Crawford, who had no fondness for Jade Stone, merely showed up without speaking. Thus, Claire Crawford's arrival drew Jade Stone's attention. Father, I apologize for being late. I just returned from the Manhwa temple and hurried back, thinking of meeting Brother Jade, so I changed my outfit. Please don't be upset, Brother Jade. Claire Crawford looked into Jade Stone's eyes, and it dawned on him that Claire Crawford was the one who saved him. He had intentionally hidden the fact that he was rescued, claiming his own prowess. But he hadn't expected his savior to be Claire Crawford. Claire, you're here. Jade isn't petty like that, especially since you went to the Manhwa temple to pray for the household and for your future with Prince Lance. Lord Crawford deliberately mentioned this to let Jade Stone know that Claire Crawford was soon to marry Prince Lance. Currently, the capital was in chaos, the situation unstable, but most people favored Prince Lance. By marrying his daughter to Prince Lance, Lord Crawford intended to signal to Jade Stone that the household was aligning with Prince Lance, suggesting he should declare his stance as well. Claire has grown so much, I almost didn't recognize her, Jade Stone remarked with a hint of irony. It wasn't that he didn't recognize her, if he had realized it was Claire Crawford at the time, he wouldn't have been so startled. It seemed there was significant tension between Claire Crawford and the lady of the house. After that day, Jade Stone couldn't conveniently stay in the main residence, so the lady arranged a separate courtyard in the west for him, deliberately keeping him away from Vincent Crawford. A mother knows her child best, and the lady understood what Vincent was thinking, but she absolutely forbade any entanglements between her daughter and Jade Stone. She was constantly looking for ways to eliminate Jade Stone. Now that Lord Crawford had chosen Claire as Prince Lance's future consort, the lady was always anxious about Vincent's marriage prospects. Apart from Prince Lance, there were few suitable matches for Vincent, and as a mother, she naturally had to plan for Vincent's future. Seeing that Lord Crawford didn't seem concerned, if Jade Stone were to one day take over the position of Deputy Commander of the Imperial Guards, Lord Crawford might very well marry Vincent to him. Therefore, the lady knew she couldn't allow Jade Stone to survive. Since Jade Stone's return, the household had seen many visitors, and unexpectedly, Prince Lance also came to the estate. Of course, he didn't come alone but with Prince Tan. Snowfrost hurried to report to Claire, "Miss, His Highness Prince Lance has arrived." Claire, now the future consort of Prince Lance, paid particular attention to him. However, she wasn't as pleased as one might expect. At the moment, she was admiring a jade pendant gifted by Prince Tan, intricately carved with entwined patterns. Snowfrost, if Prince Lance is here, he must have business with Lord Crawford. Willow Green, understanding Claire's feelings, noted that Claire wasn't fond of Prince Lance. Yet, the servants knew better than to discuss their mistress's affairs, so Willow Green kept her thoughts to herself. "No, it's a guard from Prince Lance inviting you, Miss." Snowfrost, unaware of Willow Green's intentions, reported to Claire. "All right, tidy up a bit, let's go to the front hall," Claire instructed. With so many visitors recently, Claire anticipated Prince Lance's arrival. She understood the current political landscape. The Imperial Guards were linked to Princess Amelia, and Prince Lance had no way to approach or win them over. But if the deputy commander position fell to Jade Stone, Prince Lance might be able to draw him in. That's why Jade Stone had been receiving so many visitors, and Lord Crawford was being flattered. The household was thriving, having a future Prince Lance consort, power through Lord Crawford, and Jade Stone's potential influence, few could compare. Claire casually dressed and headed out, only to find Ruby Moon, the lady's attendant, watching her. While everyone awaited Jade Stone, he was practicing swordsmanship behind the rock garden, coincidentally encountering Claire. "Many are waiting for you outside, Jade, yet here you are practicing," Claire smiled, approaching him without hesitation. After all, she intended to repay the life-saving debt. "Claire, you've changed," Jade Stone observed. The once timid and fearful Claire would never have appeared before him like this. "Really? Everyone changes. Jade, as a man of stature, you must know the importance of repaying kindness, right?" Claire directly addressed the matter, wanting to collaborate with Jade Stone before Prince Lance could reach him. She aimed to show that Prince Lance wasn't the best choice and urged Jade Stone to think carefully. Chapter 17, The First Lady's plan backfires. "It seems Claire has come to collect her reward," Jade Stone smiled, having waited for Claire Crawford all this time. Unexpectedly, she was calmer than he anticipated. This was not the Claire Crawford he once knew. Before, she seemed unremarkable, blending into the crowd unnoticed, yet now she shone brightly. The First Lady treats Jade so poorly, I can't stand it. Jade, do you know she wants Vincent to marry Prince Lance? I'm really worried, Jade, you must help me. Claire Crawford was now the future consort of Prince Lance, but the First Lady wouldn't give up easily. She would certainly use some tactics. If the First Lady succeeded, she would want Vincent Crawford to marry Prince Lance. Claire Crawford knew about the relationship between Vincent Crawford and Jade Stone and believed Jade Stone had feelings for Vincent. Hence, her words today. Claire, you're so clever. Prince Lance is fortunate to have you as his consort, Jade Stone said. Though outwardly he praised her, his interest in Prince Lance was minimal due to his connection with Vincent Crawford. He disliked being manipulated, which was one reason the Crawford family didn't favor him. After achieving her goal, Claire Crawford left, and Jade Stone returned to change clothes, preparing to meet guests. He wanted to see what Prince Lance would say to him. However, before Claire Crawford could leave the rock garden, she was overwhelmed by the scent of almonds and fainted, with Willow Green collapsing beside her. Two figures emerged from behind the rocks. Meanwhile, in the main hall, Prince Lance and King Tan sat at the head table, drinking tea. Jade Stone has quite a high price, King Tan remarked, seemingly uninterested in Jade Stone. But he believed Claire Crawford would try to prevent Jade Stone from collaborating with Prince Lance. He was in no rush, as he was dragged to the Crawford estate by Prince Lance. With a promotion, things are different now, Prince Lance said as the head of the Crawford family and the First Lady arrived. Vincent Crawford followed reluctantly, forced by the First Lady to attend, as important figures from the capital were present. Prince Lance, King Tan, the head of the Crawford family greeted, Jade is probably practicing his swordsmanship. He hoped to use Jade Stone to gain some leverage over Prince Lance, wishing for more recognition and a higher position when Prince Lance became emperor. Only by showing that the Crawfords supported Prince Lance could he gain favor. No problem, Prince Lance smiled. The First Lady looked around anxiously, worried about Ruby Moon's absence. Vincent Crawford, however, wanted to leave for fresh air and to meet Jade Stone, so she quietly slipped away. Time passed, and Jade Stone still hadn't appeared. King Tan, pretending to be impatient, began to stir trouble. Crawford, your son is quite presumptuous, making Prince Lance wait. That's unacceptable, King Tan said, causing Prince Lance's expression to sour. He came to see Jade Stone, yet had been waiting for too long. How could he be pleased? The head of the Crawford family quickly stood and replied, Prince Lance, King Tan, Jade might be busy. Busy? Prince Lance didn't believe that. Holding back his anger, he said, if Jade Stone is busy, I'll go see him myself. The head of the Crawford family was stunned, unable to react before the First Lady spoke, if Prince Lance wishes to see Jade, then let's go. She seized the opportunity, as Ruby Moon hadn't arrived. Prince Lance and King Tan stood, and the head of the Crawford family led the way. Jade Stone's courtyard was secluded, and a servant, seeing the group approach, hurried to greet them. Greetings, masters. Young Master Jade is inside. I'll inform him immediately. The servant rushed back, but the First Lady stopped him, unwilling to miss this chance. Prince Lance is here, what is Jade doing? Someone, open the door, said the First Madam. The young attendant at the door dared not stop her. The Prince of Qin, disregarding his royal status, walked up and kicked the door open. A sharp odor wafted out, revealing Jade Stone and Vincent Crawford lying together on the bed. The First Madam was shocked, her face filled with horror and disbelief. Just then, Claire Crawford approached from behind. Father, Your Highness Prince Lance, what has happened here? Claire Crawford clearly knew what had transpired but still asked. The Prince of Qin replied, Third Miss Crawford, you arrived just in time. Your elder sister and Jade Stone are lying together on the bed, bringing shame and disgrace to the family. The Prince of Qin had no intention of currying favor with the Crawford family and spoke bluntly. Prince Lance stood by silently, as if watching an entertaining play. The First Madam was utterly confused. She had meticulously planned for Jade Stone and Claire Crawford to be in this situation, so how did it end up being her own daughter? Claire Crawford watched the First Madam's mental collapse with a cold smile. If she hadn't seen Willow Green suddenly faint on the ground, or if she hadn't taken the 100 poison pill earlier, she wouldn't have been immune to poisons and discovered Ruby Moon's plot to drug them. Thus, Claire Crawford turned the tables, pretending to be unconscious. When Ruby Moon let her guard down, Claire used a needle to knock her out. Vincent Crawford appeared before Claire, intending to find Jade Stone. Claire then knocked Vincent unconscious and had her change into her clothes. The young attendant, unfamiliar with Claire and Vincent, confused Vincent for Claire in the chaos and took her to Jade Stone's room, leading to the current scene. "Your Highness Prince Lance, Your Highness Prince of Qin, let's move to the front hall," Claire suggested. Only then did the head of the Crawford family snap out of his daze, stunned by the situation with Vincent and Jade Stone. Following Claire's suggestion, he escorted Prince Lance and the Prince of Qin to the guest room. The two princes didn't stay long before leaving the head of the Crawford family thoroughly embarrassed. Chapter 18, Drinking Wine, Playing the Lute. The first wife was despised by Lord Crawford, and even Vincent Crawford was confined to the main courtyard, unable to leave without the lord's permission. The household was handed over to Margaret Seymour to manage, meaning the first wife lost both her husband and her power. As soon as Margaret Seymour took control, she continuously sent gifts to the Peach Blossom Pavilion. In recent days, along with the gifts from Prince Lance, the storeroom was nearly overflowing. "Miss, what exactly is Margaret Seymour's intention?" Willow Green couldn't understand Margaret Seymour's motives. "It wasn't like this before, so why now?" "Of course, she wants to win me over," Claire Crawford replied. And the reason for winning her over was surely because of Emily Crawford. In the evening, Claire Crawford placed some small, dense nails on the ground by the window, then sat waiting for someone to arrive. Given the time, he should be coming soon. After she extinguished the candle, she indeed noticed movement at the window not long after, and then saw the Prince of Qin attempting to sneak in through the window. If he weren't so experienced, having spent years on the battlefield and able to see clearly at night, he might have truly fallen for the trap. "Ungrateful wretch, I've come all this way to visit you, hearing you're sick, and this is how a patient should behave?" The Prince of Qin saw Claire Crawford sitting in the dark, and if he weren't strong-minded, he might have been scared to death. Claire Crawford was also puzzled as to why he always snuck in at midnight. Meeting secretly was one thing, but she didn't even know what he looked like. "Your Highness, Prince of Qin, if you come to my room at midnight again, be careful not to be mistaken for a thief." Although Claire Crawford didn't care about so-called reputation, she couldn't allow wrongful acts. The Prince of Qin appeared indifferent and said, "This time, I've brought you the news you most want to know." News she most wanted to know? Claire Crawford raised an eyebrow, unsure of what he meant. The Prince of Qin then took out a music score, with 2 volumes. Claire Crawford couldn't play the lute but understood music theory. Although the scores looked similar, there were a few differences. Claire Crawford looked at the Prince of Qin, still confused. "Margaret Seymour from your household spent a large sum to find this," he explained. Only then did Claire Crawford understand that Margaret Seymour intended to stir up trouble. "You showed me these things, is that all you wanted to tell me?" Surely this small matter wasn't enough for the Prince of Qin to sneak into her room at midnight? The Prince of Qin smiled and said, "Of course not, today I've come to take you out for some fun." "Fun?" Before Claire Crawford could react, the Prince of Qin, familiar with the route, took her hand, and without any resistance from her, they slipped out the window together. That day, Claire Crawford noticed a hint of sadness in the masked eyes of King Tan. Perhaps it was because they shared the same fate, or maybe they were simply the same kind of person. On that day, King Tan took wine from the roof of his residence, and Claire Crawford drank with him. The weather was turning cold as winter approached, and King Tan looked at Claire Crawford before offering her his coat. "Oh, how considerate," Claire Crawford remarked, drinking King Tan's wine and suddenly feeling it was all a bit absurd. She was supposed to be at the Marquis residence, so how did she end up on the roof drinking wine with King Tan? "I am always considerate," King Tan replied without modesty, taking another sip of his drink. The wine Claire Crawford drank was fruit wine, while King Tan's was strong liquor. "You drink wine as if it's water, wasting your good wine," Claire Crawford commented, wondering if they would have headaches the next day from drinking on a cold rooftop. "Today is my birthday," King Tan revealed, perhaps loosened by the alcohol. Claire Crawford was neither with royal consort Florence nor Prince Lance, she was his ally. In his heart, he could only confide in Claire Crawford, as telling anyone else might lead to gossip. Claire Crawford was taken aback. Both were royalty, yet while Prince Lance's birthday was celebrated grandly, few remembered King Tan's. At that moment, Claire Crawford felt pity for him, realizing that no matter how high one's position, everyone has their own sorrows. Then, I'll drink with you, Claire Crawford decided, feeling that wishing him a happy birthday was pointless, so she chose to drink with him instead. That night, they drank a lot, so much that Claire Crawford couldn't remember how she got back. When she awoke, she vaguely recalled sneaking back to Peach Blossom Pavilion before everyone else woke up, sleeping until the afternoon. When Willow Green came to wake her, Emily Crawford had already arrived, prompting Willow Green to rouse Claire Crawford. With Vincent Crawford currently under house arrest, only she and Emily Crawford remained in the Marquis residence. Today, Emily Crawford brought snacks to her study, clearly with an ulterior motive. In truth, Emily Crawford disliked this task, not wanting to feign closeness, but Margaret Seymour insisted she pretend to befriend Claire Crawford, so she reluctantly came to the study. The place smelled of medicine, and Emily Crawford covered her nose, unable to bear it, as she was led into the inner study by Willow Green. "Claire, dear sister, I made these snacks myself, especially for you to try," Emily Crawford said, presenting the snacks with feigned warmth, though her intentions were obvious. "Just leave them there, I've been unwell and just took medicine, so I'll eat them later," Claire Crawford replied, feigning illness to avoid Prince Lance. Being supposedly ill meant Prince Lance naturally wouldn't bother her, granting her some peace. But her peace was short-lived, as Emily Crawford began her scheming. It's truly unbearable. However, Claire Crawford understood that perhaps Margaret Seymour had been trying to win favor these past few days, and Emily Crawford's visit today with pastries was likely because Prince Lance's birthday was approaching. Claire Crawford could clearly guess Emily Crawford's intentions. She likely wanted to attend the event. But since Prince Lance did not invite Emily Crawford, she didn't have the right to attend, so she was trying to win Claire over. "Claire, my dear, I found an ancient melody and thought you might like it. Shall we go and see it together?" Emily Crawford's suggestion was clear to Claire Crawford. At this moment, she felt dizzy. Last night, she drank with Prince Tan, and now she had no desire to listen to any ancient melodies. "I'm not feeling well these days, I can't go. Right now, I'm very dizzy and want to lie down for a bit," Claire Crawford said, and Emily Crawford believed her. Today, Emily went to the library pavilion, intending to find out if Claire Crawford was truly sick or just pretending. Unexpectedly, she was really ill, and the entire library pavilion smelled of medicine. Emily Crawford was secretly pleased, hoping that Claire Crawford would be so ill that she couldn't get up. That way, the position of princess for Prince Lance would be hers. Chapter 19, The Tuong to Loot. The next morning, Lady Margaret sent Springhope to the Peach Blossom Pavilion to see Claire Crawford. Springhope smiled and said, "Third Miss, the Marquis wishes to see you in the front hall." It seemed that Lady Margaret was up to her tricks again. Claire Crawford didn't even glance at Springhope and simply instructed Willow Green to style her hair and apply makeup. Springhope smiled and withdrew, while Willow Green grumbled, "Miss, the Marquis is really something, knowing you're still unwell but insisting you go out." Claire Crawford said nothing. The allure of a gentle fragrance was no match for Lady Margaret's sweet whispers by the Marquis's side. Afterward, Claire Crawford dressed casually and went to the front hall. Marquis Crawford, being attentively served by Lady Margaret, softened his stance and only spoke when Claire arrived. "Claire, in a few days, it will be Prince Lance's birthday. You and Emily will perform a duet, becoming a perfect pair." "A perfect pair?" That must have been Lady Margaret's words, likely aiming for Emily Crawford to have some connection with Prince Lance, using Claire as a stepping stone for Emily. However, these things were not important. "Yes, father, I understand." Claire Crawford, although not understanding music scores, was still able to learn. She didn't want to compete, but neither did she want to be schemed against. For the past few days, Emily Crawford had been practicing the piano and continuously teaching Claire, giving the impression of deep sisterly affection. However, Claire remained silent until that morning when Prince Tan arrived. "Miss, His Highness Prince Tan said that Prince Lance sent someone to deliver a piano for you and the second miss," Willow Green announced as Prince Tan entered. That day, he wore a purple robe, shining even more brightly under the sun. This one I found casually, but it's worth 1,000 gold.
Remember to return it after using it, Miss Emily.
This other one was specially commissioned by Prince Lance for Miss Claire, called Eternal Longing.
Claire found Prince Tan's sudden gift-giving peculiar. What was his motive? Everyone knew Emily Crawford liked Prince Lance.
By doing this, Prince Tan was essentially slapping Emily in the face, and she likely wouldn't let it go easily. He had come to the mansion and stirred trouble without any discussion, even using Prince Lance's name.
While Prince Lance might be naive, Claire was not.
My sister is better at playing, so the fine piano from Prince Lance should be given to her, Claire coldly remarked, eyeing Prince Tan.
He no longer climbed through windows but instead presented her with a dilemma.